Okay, so today I'd like to welcome James Tonkin from Tonkin Plumbing in Albury and Wodonga. And so welcome, James. Thank you for participating in this Business Spotlight series. So can I just ask you, when you think of, or who's the first person that you think of in terms of success?
Oh, the first person I think of, you put me on the spot there. I've got a lot of people I look up to, obviously, over the years, been involved in a lot of good businesses locally and, follow a lot of, great companies across the world now that we're in the digital age. Success for me, I mean, in a business sense, I think there's a lot of people that I look up to locally, and particularly in the building industry. There's a few guys that have been around for a long time that have earned themselves a great reputation, and they're people that I look up to, and they've been guys I've been able to share thoughts with at meetings over the years, and I've got quite a few mentors in that respect.
Yes.
To name drop a few, I suppose locally, I look back to the sort of the golden era of construction prior to the national builders sort of coming to town. That's when sort of a lot of the businesses that are still around today really cut their teeth and grew from the ground up. And I look at, I'm very proud of my father who started in that area as a plumber back in the 80s. But people that Gary, my father, dealt with, when they were both sort of backyard companies like Colin Joss and Gary Zorner, when they're a lot smaller than they are now, but they're still very humble guys, and they've been very good to me over the years to continue that great relationship.
Yes.
And some gentlemen that I really aspire to, but there's plenty of others, that's for sure.
Good. Look, and that's one of the great things about the Albury-Wodonga region is that, in terms of successful businesses within the region, there's a great number of them, and I think you need to congratulate yourself for actually searching out some of these more successful people and building those relationships with them. So well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
So I guess for people who are watching this interview, just explain a little bit about what you do and for how long you've actually been doing it.
Okay. So Tonkin Group, for those that don't know much about us, we're a trade business in Albury-Wodonga. Originally, we were just plumbers, and that's my background as a tradesman. As a plumber, I started when I was 19 in the industry. Had never really had any ambition to become a tradesman until about that time. Decided that uni wasn't. Decided against university at the time anyway, even just for a little while, but sort of fell in love with the trade, and here we are. But we're a trade business. So we have plumbers. We do a lot of air conditioning work with refrigeration and also electrical. So plumbing is one of those games where there's a very large spectrum of what we can offer, and over the years we've really grown to reach every end of the spectrum in that regard, but also add on a few other trades to complement it, and we become a real licensed trade service. That's what we do here at Tonkin. Yep,
sure. And how long have you been doing this for?
So the business is 42 years old. So I'm not quite that old, but I've been in it for so since I was 19. So like do the math, about 18 years in the game now. So been around for a while, I suppose.
Yeah, and you said you took over from your dad. So when did that happen?
So my parents they retired. They retired in 2015. So myself and Victoria, we purchased a business then. That was my wife, Victoria. She was from a real estate background and had a lot of passion for that sort of sector, which we could service as a service provider. And we sort of joined forces then and put our energy into this, and we've managed to grow quite a big way in that time. Since 2015.
Yeah, fantastic, and it's I've been following you a little bit as well, and seeing all the awards and everything that you've been winning as a business as well. So well done.
Thanks, mate.
So I guess at that time that you've taken over the business, and was not long before COVID started to hit. So what's the biggest impact that COVID has had on your business?
Well, yeah, to some extent, being an essential service provider, we're sheltered, from a lot of the hardships that a lot of the other industries obviously were impacted by. But at the same token, everybody was affected by the pandemic, but we really honed in on, I feel that the business solutions that we really needed to bring in to thrive through the pandemic, and that was becoming a lot more digitally based business, a business that can be not run from pen and paper. We've never been one of those businesses, and we like to think that we're quite ahead of the game in that respect. We really had to up our game in that regard, and to run a business, run an office that can continue to operate, working remotely, those sort of things, and be really flexible on the spot. Like, not many people had much notice this was coming, but we sort of, and I don't really like the term, but we really pivoted quickly, and those that did that were able to get through it and thrive in it. And I think, looking back, the pandemic, it probably brought the best out of a lot of businesses and a lot of people. The times get tough, tough get going.
Yes.
And those that come out of that pandemic, luckily, as much as a lot of businesses didn't have, the same ability to get through from circumstances out of control, but we were able to come through it stronger than when we entered the pandemic, which is great. Now looking back, a lot of the decisions we made and changes we implemented are still here today and holding us in better stead than we were to start with, which we may not have ever got to had it not happened. Yeah.
So if you were to think about, say, two of those things that you've had to pivot with and that you've had to change, what would be the top two that have had the biggest impact on your business?
Probably really we talk about flexibility in the workplace nowadays, and the ability for business owners to understand their staff and what their needs are. And I suppose it's taken out of our control, a lot of those things, through the pandemic, where people were working remotely because it was mandated by the government for that to be. But we found now that that's become something that employers are looking for, is that flexibility and the ability to work remotely, or not necessarily at their at anything, for any reason other than necessity, but that ability to do that. So we've had to integrate quite a few new systems into our business, with our software and things like that, our phone systems, for example, so that we can operate the business from wherever we are, and our staff can work in the business from wherever they are as well. So it works well for the business owner, but also, for the employees. And I think we'll continue to find that ability to be flexible and work with your team is what staff are looking for in employment these days. So I suppose that might be sort of two in one there, if you know what I mean. The ability to be flexible with the employees, but also have the systems and processes in place that can enable them to do that.
Yep. Really, really important in business. So congratulations on that, because it's one of those things that you can either approach things from a glass half full or a glass half empty perspective, and what you've just outlined is definitely being glass half full. So
absolutely,
awesome stuff. So since you've been in running the business, James, what's been the biggest issues that you've had to overcome, either within the business or personally?
Issues are, I guess we have issues on a day-to-day basis to some degree. I can't really identify many diabolical issues that I've found. There's often bugbears of running a business, and I think that sort of comes with the territory and helps build resilience, if you know what I mean, to get through those. And like you said before, that it's a glass half full approach to every day is how I sort of roll with it. There's not much that really comes to mind where I could really get on my soapbox about, to be honest, Phil. But probably from my perspective, living on the border definitely has come with its challenges, whether it be from authorities or from a licensing perspective. Living on the border sometimes it's been very cumbersome. We went through the pandemic, I suppose, living on the border with our city split in half, you know what I mean, with the border closures, and that was just a small part of it, but we sort of deal with that regularly on a day-to-day basis. And running a business of our size and the amount of employees that we have, living on both sides of the border, dealing with authorities on both sides of the border, that's beginning to be more and more challenging the bigger we get.
Yes, yeah. And and I think that this is where the cross-border initiatives that are being generated by both states is really important. So it's going to be interesting to see how all of that plays itself out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Are you participating in any of those forums at all, James?
We have, yeah. We've given some feedback in a few mediums. It's one of those things that sort of takes time, I think, but for change to come through. But we're watching it closely, and hopefully, I think in a few years' time we'll look back on this and remember how we used to do it. It'll be one of those sort of things.
Yes.
And that'll be that.
So what's one thing that you've learned about yourself during your journey in business?
Probably learn a lot about myself, but it's interesting question. Not really prepared for that one, but if there's things I've learned, it's really about absorbing the pressure each day and not letting it show. Being the person that I want to be at work.
Yes.
To my colleagues, my staff here. Often get asked, "Oh, don't you ever get stressed?" And I don't seem like I ever get stressed. I probably do carry some stress at some level, but I don't tend to show it. And I think that's one part of my being is that I seem to be quite resilient in that respect.
Yeah.
And need to be, given that.
So how do you manage your stress?
Not really sure, mate. To be honest, I mean, I don't go home and beat up on a punching bag or carry a stress ball around or anything like that. I think it's just really about understanding your surroundings and knowing what outcome you want in a situation. I mean, focused on that.
Yes. Yep.
I've got a great relationship with my wife. Obviously, we go home, we talk, and we talk it out every night. Dissect the day, get off our chest, and unwind and spend time with the kids. I think it's one of the best skills I've got at the moment has been the ability to turn off after work or when time permits. You're obviously always going to care about it, but you also need time out. And we're really good at making sure we book a holiday, get some time out, build a business that can not only operate but thrive when you're absent. You're obviously always there, especially nowadays. It's just pick up your iPhone and I can get a snapshot of what's going on in the business at any point in time of the day, no matter where I am in the world, sort of thing. So, but that ability to turn off, refresh, it keeps me going. I don't really have a real means of stress management other than just dealing day by day. Get to the end of the week, have a beer on a Friday, sort of thing, and tune out for a day or two if you can, and then back into it. So
look, I think that's one of the most important things about leadership is being level-headed, being in control of the surroundings, the situation, no matter what gets fired at you, is being able to approach it with a very, very objective outlook as to, okay, what's the outcome that I want to achieve from this situation? So that's a fantastic skill, and it's one that you need to be continually working on. So all right. Okay, we'll go with two more questions, James. So what would you say to anyone thinking of going into business today?
I think it's a question from that respect is that anyone's got the ability to do it. They just really need to understand what their goals are and set out, set off to achieving those. I think a lot of people underestimate their ability to go out and do something like start a business. It's not for everyone, obviously. It comes a lot more than it probably seems on the surface. But for anyone starting out, I think it's like believing in yourself, and hard work. Be prepared for some hard work. We look back on our success and what it's taken to get there. There's been a lot of sacrifices made and a lot of hours put in, in and after hours to get there. But in the long run, if you have a long-term perspective, you believe you can make it.
Yes. Yeah.
Be patient. Get some good people around you. Have a mentor or two. But set some goals and get through them year by year, and eventually, hopefully things turn out.
Yeah. All of those things are really important. So, just in summary then, self-confidence, self-belief, perseverance, persistence, and everything else that you can actually throw at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So one more question. Let's see. What's the best advice that you would give an 18-year-old James Tonkin?
Well, what I was doing when I was 18, there's probably a few hard lessons I needed to learn at that stage. but let's. I think looking back, I'm sort of really very proud of where I've gotten to now in the time since I've. So I really look back on my time since I was 18. It was like really that was my career. Ever since then, sort of thing. There was certainly a lot of hard times in the early years. Especially as an apprentice, so I was looking back, I wasn't quite an apprentice, I was 18, but I was close to starting, and they were definitely the hardest years. And that I sort of lived through a lot of our young apprentices at the moment, and relating to what they're going through. So, was definitely the most challenging part of my career. And you might think that's crazy. Now we're looking with, 85 staff and, all sorts of chaos happening here at the moment. But looking back, I found the most challenging was learning something new that I've never done before, and and struggling to understand some of the concepts. And those first 2 years in a new career, they're the foundation years, but they're also the hardest times. So I look back on that, and I'd probably give myself a tap on the shoulder and say, "You'll be right. You just got to persevere." That's that perseverance. And I say that to all our young staff. It's like I can relate. They were the tough times, and it'll be the same for everyone in whatever career you're going to. Whether you left university and you're trying to get that first job, or you're starting out when you're 18. You just got to get in. You got to get stuck into something. So those first few years, I definitely look back on just a calmer hand on my shoulder would have been nice. So I got that. I had the good support around me, but I do look back and think, thank God those days are over.
Yes, yep, absolutely. And for any other 18-year-olds that are actually watching this, again, it just comes back to that self-belief, having confidence, persevering and persisting. Chase your dreams, chase your goals.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
right. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your input today, James. It's been absolutely wonderful having a chat with you.
Yeah, it has been. Likewise.
Getting a better insight into what your journey in business has been. And thank you again.
Great. No problem. Thanks, Phil.